So, welcome everyone back to another episode of What the Tech, where for our actual, like this season, season two, we're still journeying in regards to AI, the uncertainty, and some of the wonder as well that people get to explore. And I have with me an amazing guest. I have with me Kelly. And Kelly, please, if you don't mind introducing yourself to our audience, a bit of what you do.
Of course. Yeah. Kelly Schroeder. I'm the director of IT for Colorado Early Colleges. We're a K-12 charter schools in the state of Colorado in the US. And um, yeah, we're just beginning the journey down the AI path, just trying to figure out what we're doing. And there's, boy, it's a fun road.
It is a it's an interesting one. And
Yeah.
even with that, Kelly, with what you just mentioned, before we dive into the AI part of things, what does IT leadership look like in your world? Just a little bit of that before we even go into the AI conversation.
Sure. It's it's everything. We're a small enough team that, today I was on site doing basic tier one tech support, helping somebody get
Mhm.
logged into a computer um, and then other days, it's policy and budgets.
Okay.
I do a lot of one-on-ones and just, yeah, I you wear a lot of hats when you're on a small team, and so I've got a team of about 12 people that work for me across our schools, and so we have to do all the things to make sure um, tech keeps running for our kids.
That makes sense, and it requires, I'm guessing, a lot of flexibility, adaptability, and who knows what else you need because there may be a new skill you even need to bring to the table. Even with now, with the conversation of AI in education, those conversations, at least AI conversation, it
Mhm.
can kind of swing between excitement and fear pretty quickly. What
Yeah.
do you think most people often misunderstand about AI?
In our particular context, um, I think the biggest thing that educators are struggling with is seeing AI as a source of cheating
Oh,
primarily. That's the
yes, that's
only
true.
that's a lot of them approach it as this is evil. This is bad. It is
Oh, like a threat.
destroying,
Hmm.
yeah. And not just a threat to us, but they see the news articles like the MIT article that was talking about how people using AI were actually had lowered cerebral activity and so
Oh,
they point to things like that and they say, we don't want our kids using AI because not only is it going to cheat for them, that it's
right.
actually going to degrade their ability to think critically, to be able to have skills and do all these things that we're trying to help them achieve during their education, and AI is going to rob them of that.
That from the teacher's perspective, I it does make sense. Now, is that the main perspective that guides what they do, or is it more of um like is it like as in does that have to get layered into there's the teachers, then there's the policy, and then there's everything else in
Well, you've hit the friction point right on the head. The cross education. I mean, I'm seeing this on LinkedIn from other people, either in my role or K-12 leadership
Mhm.
educators. They're all struggling with this. What do we do? When do we do it? And who does what and how?
Okay.
Um, so we have some schools that are far out in front and they're already implementing AI in the classrooms. They have expectations, they have rubrics, they're starting to do professional development for their faculty. Where we're at right now is we're working on policy. We decided that we were going to start with building frameworks, um, because in the US we have a few. We're not the greatest in the world with privacy laws, but we do have some protecting student data.
Mhm.
The big one is FERPA, and then there's a state law that we have to work within. And so we're trying to find a way to prepare our students for a future that includes AI, but protect their ability to learn and their information. And that's a big a big hill to climb.
It is, and because it has implications for a lot of different things. And what, like, even conceptually, what does it look like to take that hill one step at a time?
It's really starting at the top. We're trying to build
Okay.
a big, broad-based policy with stakeholder input, um, that hopefully gives a foundation.
Mm,
So it establishes the non-negotiables. You know, you won't put student data, student private information into any public frontier model.
right. Yeah. That's a
Those
given.
kinds of things that should be obvious, but people just like their chat GPTs that they've been using for the last two
Oh,
years. And
it's their
you
friend.
know, right. Yeah. I posted this, I added this spreadsheet to my chat and asked it questions about my students, and well, that's terrible. Don't do that,
I know.
please.
Don't do that.
Yeah. So that's where we're starting right now, is that top level,
So,
broad,
okay.
non-negotiable policy. And then from there we're gonna need to put in place guidelines,
Mhm.
around, particularly for the educators, so that they have things to build off of, scaffolding, if you will, so that they can, okay, so we've got this base level of privacy and do no harm kinds of policies.
Mhm.
Then they can build and they can say, well, in my class, because I teach a given topic and AI
Right.
is appropriate, then I can have, using these guidelines, I can put things in syllabi and tell my students this is the expectation. You may use it for these assignments. You may not use it for these assignments. And then in
Hmm.
other
That's
courses where
interesting.
it's, like English composition. That's one where, really the students need to be writing especially at an introductory level.
Mhm.
Use of AI is going to impair their ability to learn. And so it's appropriate for the teacher then to be able to say, AI is out for this class. You may not use it in any way, shape, or form. So we're building a structure. I shouldn't have said top. We're starting at the foundation. That's a
Right,
better
right,
analogy.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that you're thinking of it as there's a foundation and it's still going to look like the foundation is what will be built into those contextual situations, as in which topic is each teacher going to actually showcase to the students, because AI will not be used in the exact same way while it needs some governance principles and everything. Yeah, I've never heard that. That's actually interesting. It makes sense to the gym teachers out there. You can use AI. It's just gonna look different from the
Yeah.
English teacher. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
because and I actually think that's a really cool concept. Like, how do teachers use AI? Is it like there's a lens of how the students would want to use it relative to maybe learning a little bit more or curiosity versus the teacher using it to actually help as a way to teach even more? What are your thoughts on that?
There's a few layers that we're working through with that. One
Mhm.
is the AI as an assistant.
Mm,
So
mhm.
how can I use AI to give back time, because it's automating tasks, it's
Right.
developing curriculum, it's doing whatever it is that is absorbing non-instructional time from a teacher's schedule. Um, and so that's 100% separated from student interface.
Right. Mhm.
Then we have AI as a learning tool. So the teacher is actually developing content that is going into the classroom that students are interacting with. So it's expanding the capacity. If I had to teach a history course, I know a
Mhm.
decent amount about, major world events, not being a history teacher. But using AI, I could really dive deep into topics and learn some things and be able to then teach it without previously being an expert in that. So it's multiplying a teacher's fundamental knowledge and skills by giving them access to information in a structured way that they can then teach on. And then the third way is assisting the students in learning. So using it as a mirror. So not necessarily just as a means for a student to go, hey ChatGPT, who discovered neon gas?
Mhm.
That's real basic, but there's ways that we can utilize AI to reflect back what a student has learned. So they can say, here's my paper. Can
Mhm.
you provide me feedback, guidance? So it's
Yes,
an
that's a good one.
it's a TA, almost a teaching assistant
Right.
for the teacher to be able to give immediate, whenever available support to students, because the teachers aren't going to want to answer a student. They're working at 11 o'clock at night on an assignment that's due the next morning. The teacher doesn't want to answer questions.
I don't. It's a tight
But if they
deadline.
can, yeah, right. But if they can go to an AI and say, what if within guidelines, so that they're not generating the whole thing out of AI, but within a framework, they can get that sort of, okay, how do I get from a rough draft to a final draft? What are the things I need to clean up? What's not clear? Does this make sense? Am I aligned with my assignment even?
Right.
So those kinds of things that support the students' success without doing the work for them.
I I like your your words on that because it it almost speaks to this point of the maybe everyone needs a certain playbook, as in the students need their playbook, the teachers need their playbook for what exact prompts. Because the statement you mentioned about feedback is a good one because someone can grow if the right feedback is given, and the teacher is truly only human and not available every single hour of the day. But maybe ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot might
Hmm.
be, but
Yeah.
even then, you still need to scrutinize it and make sure that, does that actually make sense as feedback? So,
Right. Yeah, that's I think the hard part is the once so we get the policy, we
Mhm.
get some of the guidelines, then we need the professional development for the teachers, but we
Right.
also need the foundational knowledge for the students, because all they know is what their peers are doing.
Mhm.
They're generating stupid stories or inappropriate pictures, or whatever they're
Oh
doing
gosh.
with AI that
They're just playing around
is
with
a
it. Yeah.
yeah, it's just a cool toy for the most
Mhm.
part. And so yeah, there needs to be that, what you said, playbook. It's a great
Mhm.
term, is just so that they know, here's the prompt, here are the guardrails, this is how you get the most out of AI.
Right.
Because the thing that I'm learning about students is, there are some kids who don't care,
Of
but
course.
the majority of kids actually really do care deeply about their own education. They just don't have
Mhm.
an opportunity to express that desire to learn, and especially when they hit a wall. And so I think if we were able to put into their hands quality tools and quality guidance, AI would be a multiplier. And I think we're at an exciting phase in education if we can do this well.
Right. I like that point of AI being a multiplier, and even to that point, like, I mean, I don't know what's your tool of choice. Is it, Copilot or Claude or ChatGPT? But actually, sorry, what's your tool of choice? Yeah, I'm just curious if
Yeah, professionally, it's Copilot. We're
okay.
we're a Microsoft 365 organization, and so it means that we Copilot operates within our um, privacy
Right.
security context that we already have built for the rest of Office 365. So it's the easy one for us to go from zero to launch. So
Mhm.
that's why we settled on Copilot, was because it was cheap and easy.
I mean, if you already have Microsoft, it's yeah, why
Yeah.
like it's better than introducing some newer tool. Okay. So
Yeah.
the question I was even going to was more of the like even with Copilot itself, like what's your internal test to decide whether it's even worth your attention or it's just noise and just busy?
As far as what?
In terms of like how you want to use like Copilot itself, because Copilot could just it's a tool without
Mhm.
guidance from you as to what you're going to do with it. It could literally just be noise to someone else versus actually something that delivers value.
Yeah. To be honest, I bounced off of Copilot early on. I
Mm.
didn't like it at all. It felt like a
Really?
it felt like a really dumb version of ChatGPT, because I mean it is ChatGPT on the back end,
Right, right.
and and so because they put all these guardrails around it for
Mhm,
compliance and legal reasons,
mhm.
and so it just made it dumb. And it was really frustrating to work with. But I came back to it, and
Mm,
now I've figured out more about how it works. Um, there are times where it's a waste of my time to use. Um, but they actually have some really good built-in, they call them agents. They're basically just
Right.
pre-prompted um, engines that do all the context for you at the beginning. And there's one in there called Researcher, and
Yes.
it's really good. I mean, when I need Copilot to actually think through something, like I'm not just drafting something.
Mhm.
We had one where I was needing to find out what other schools in the area were using for their productivity platforms.
Okay.
And I told Copilot, go examine the MX records of all these organizations. Here's their URL in a spreadsheet. Go examine their MX records and tell me what mail service provider they're using and thus productivity platform.
Hmm.
And it churned away, and sure enough, I mean, it was 100% spot on. It was able to identify every organization's productivity platform using that.
That is, and it's interesting that that's still coming out of you, the human, as in the range with which you give it an instruction, and also like what you said about the deeper level of Copilot, not the free version, but researcher can really
Hmm.
dig so deep to really give like what everybody is really looking for, the super quality stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and then on the other end of it, there have been, I've asked it to do things, and well, that was a waste of time. But I didn't I didn't have to
Now
put a
you
whole
know.
lot into it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of. But I'm
So,
getting better too. Like
ah,
I'm learning what the ways like there. I interact with Grok a lot for just like information about what's going on, broad opinion, input on what's going on. And I interact with Grok differently than I do with Copilot.
oh, okay.
Grok is very just, I'm going to ask you a question, and Grok comes back with pretty high quality responses,
Hmm.
but it's not deep. Take something apart, look at the underneath, and provide you with structured information. It doesn't do as great of a
Oh,
job with that. Whereas
okay.
Copilot, with proper guardrails,
Right.
it really does a great job at that, where it will bring back structured content and clear input. And I'm using it for policy analysis right now. That's my current project with AI,
Hmm.
is
Nice.
checking our existing policies against federal and state regulations to make sure that we
Right.
comply.
I really like that because I think this is even like even with your anyone's interaction with AI, what still needs human judgment and why? Like in terms of because people like even what you had stated previously that someone may have a different AI tool of choice and might say, "Hey, I'll just use it here and add this data here," versus the one where it's like human judgment actually is required here. Yeah. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts?
Um, yeah, based on what I do,
Mhm.
I have not yet found a way that I can use AI without a human in the loop.
Mm, okay.
I know, I mean, based on what I see, like on LinkedIn and on some of the other platforms, there are people who are building things that are fully autonomous and don't
Mhm.
require a human in the loop. Um, but that's not been my use case. But I'm also not coding. I'm not building new
Right.
platforms. I'm not.
Right.
Maybe if I used Claude Code, there's some cool things that people are doing that are not code based with Claude Code. Using those MD
Okay.
files and building out structures. That's really fascinating. But it hasn't been worth it to me to build out the
Oh,
infrastructure.
and I think, I mean, and that's fair because your relationship and how you use it will change over time. It truly is still a need-based relationship. Like if you do not need it at all, then you're not going to force it into your life. But if it will actually help you get some serious gains or really like streamline what you need to do, then it's worth bringing it into the conversation.
Hmm.
And I think even with that, does using Copilot or any AI tool, has it changed where you spend your mental energy during the day? Like 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 the time you spend talking to it about something. Is it helpful? Versus, just
Yeah.
sucking up so much time.
I discovered early on in my technology career that I am not a programmer because I'm not a structured thinker. I make intuitive
Mm,
leaps, and
right.
I go to the end, and I'm good at that. It makes me a really good troubleshooter, but it makes me a
Mm,
bad coder.
Oh,
Um, and AI gives the impression that I should be able to do that because it's always like, yeah, I can do that, but it's not. It's really I mean, it can bridge some logical leaps,
agreed.
but I've found that the more structured I can make my ask of it, the better it returns information back to me. So, but that actually has the side benefit for me because it forces me to be structured where I want to
Oh,
just type in a sentence and say, go do this thing for me, and then walk
right,
away. And it gives me terrible
right,
responses. That's part of why I bounced off Copilot the first time.
right. Yeah.
And it's because I tried those things and it didn't work.
Right.
But when I have to break down my problem, break down my question into
Hmm.
clearly defined things, say,
Hmm.
this is important to me, this is important to me, here's how I want you to return the
Oh, the
information,
information.
this is what I
Oh,
want you to do if you don't find any exact matches to what I'm asking for. Those kinds of things when it makes
interesting.
me actually think it through because I have to type it out.
Right, right. I didn't realize you go that. Actually, maybe this is a question on a side note.
Okay.
Because Kelly, you just said something there, like the quality of your prompts and also the tool that you are using. Researcher will give you something way different than just your generic Copilot. The paid will give you obviously something better than the free. Now, that being said, how deep do you go with the prompt? Like you mentioned the one sentence versus
Mhm.
something more complex. Are you wrapping it from end to end? Like, because what you just said about if you do not find these sources, switch to this or look to that. That's not something I think everybody thinks about. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was because I got so tired of getting false positives, where AI
Okay.
was just like, "Oh yeah, this is the answer." And it's wrong, like wildly wrong
Says it
sometimes.
confidently.
Yeah, there's never any question in its mind whether or not it's providing me with the right answer.
Right, which is
So,
crazy, but
but I found closing every one of my prompts with, especially when I'm looking for structured information rather than
Mhm.
just feedback,
Mm,
is, if there is no information available, return unknown or something like that,
right,
depending on what I'm asking for. And then it does not guess. There's zero room for guessing. It says I can't find. The other thing I found that's really good for getting good responses is forcing it to provide references. For
right.
every bullet point, every item that you return, you must
Mhm.
include a reference. It's better. I've had it get stuck on a reference. Like one time it returned like 8 different things using one reference, and it actually didn't apply to any of them. It was really cool,
Oh,
but but it's better. It's gonna
outlier.
okay, yeah.
Right.
It's like this
That
is the reference.
honestly, Kelly, I think thank you for sharing that. I mean, that was one of my questions down the line, but that statement you just said about if you don't know this, just tell me you don't know, as in like reply unknown. Because I've noticed sometimes when I'm interacting with Copilot and you you ask it, is this correct? And then it now says, well, maybe this part was mispl and you're
Mhm.
you're just saying, why didn't you just say that the first time? But it's like interacting with a person. If you tell them, well, if you don't know, tell me you don't know, that
Exactly.
changes what they're gonna give you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've also found a lot of value in asking it. Two more things have been really helpful to
Mhm.
me. One is ask me any questions you have before you begin to execute on these instructions.
Oh,
So
huh,
then it'll come
interesting.
back and it'll give me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it'll say, what do you want me to do here? Can you clarify this point? Can you add more detail here? And so then I just go back through, 1, here's what I want you to do, 2, disregard, 3,
Right,
whatever. And so it gives me a
right.
chance to clarify. And then if I'm building a really big, complicated thing, I'll actually ask it to evaluate my prompt and provide me with suggestions on how to write a better prompt. So I'll say,
Really?
here's my
Wow.
prompt.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. That's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Because I mean, it should be the smartest thing at interacting with itself in theory.
Mhm. Agreed.
That's my working theory. I don't know if that's accurate, but it's helped me become a better prompter because then I can see, okay, this is what it's doing
Mhm.
to tell me to tell it better. So
Right.
now the next time I'll incorporate that and my next prompt will be that much better than this one was.
That is That's really good synergy because even like not forgetting and or intentionally asking it to help you with improving the prompt, not the assumption that what you put is the best prompt because sometimes, or not sometimes, it can be better. Let's just be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine's always the best, but I'm usually wrong.
and and even with the automation piece of it and like using AI in real time, what's one task or process that just takes, I don't want to say forever, but takes so long that you wish AI could actually help make this more efficient or just flow smoother?
Scheduling.
Oh, okay.
I, someday I will have an assistant. That's my career goal right now is to get to a level where I have an assistant who can handle scheduling for me. Because you
Real-time
have those,
scheduling.
yeah, because you have
Oh,
those things where
wow.
you're
Okay.
going
That's
back and
interesting.
forth. You're like, well, I'm available at this time. Well, that doesn't work for me. So what about this
Right.
time? Especially if we're trying to coordinate multiple people across organizations where you can't see
Mhm.
their calendars. It's so crazy. And that for me, that's a very personal thing, so much friction. It just drains my
No,
energy with that back
it
and
makes sense.
forth. And so if I could just say, AI go, I don't trust AI to hold my information private either though. So it's kind of a, I don't know if I'll
Right,
ever
it's
get there.
internal.
Yeah, I'm sure Moltbot would do it for me or whatever it is, OpenClaw. I'm sure that would do it for me if I spun it up, but that one scares me.
No, it's and I think it'd be interesting to see how you navigate that because your interaction, especially because of what you've learned doesn't work, would probably be critical to really make it something that's so smooth that within, I don't know, a few email exchanges, it's already like set an ideal schedule or even suggesting times or whatever the case might be. So, yeah. Huh. That's an interesting one.
Yeah. I mean, I would almost like a if everybody I knew had their own AI assistant that handled their scheduling and we could just tell all
Oh,
of our assistants to go talk to each other.
sync up.
Yeah, and not choose, 11 p.m. or whatever, but but choose a realistic time that,
Right.
makes sense and works for all of us. That would be
That is an
there's
idea
the dream
because
right there.
the assistants would know what time doesn't work after looking at the historical data to
Hmm.
actually say, you suggested this time, but that, wow, that's a good one. And that's, it's always good to dream with AI, I think, because you actually talk about a really fantastic solution. It's just bringing it into reality is what you
Hmm.
want. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it exists. I mean, I'm sure it would be possible with maybe Claude Work or
Mm.
like OpenClaw, but I'm still on the fence with those. Just being a privacy cybersecurity
Mhm.
professional, like that level of access to my stuff just makes me uncomfortable.
Weird. No,
Yeah.
that's a human reaction. So that's not even strange at all. And then even bringing it back to the educator side of things, because you're in IT and your own experience with AI is going to be different from someone who's, I say front lines, but like a teacher who's
Yeah.
actually teaching directly. What's one thing you wish they actually understood about AI before trying to use it in class? Like you've mentioned a few things before. I just
Hmm.
wanted to check if there was something else you thought of.
I kind of I said I touched on this before a little bit,
Mhm,
but just to emphasize it, I think it's the understanding that AI is a multiplier.
mhm.
And if you multiply zero, you get zero. So
Yeah.
if you have no foundation, if you have no structure, you're gonna
Mhm,
get garbage. You're gonna get
mhm.
effectively nothing. But I think a lot of educators are concerned about using AI because they're concerned that it's going to fill in the zero.
Oh, okay.
But if we can get kids to the point where they're bringing their twos, their threes, their fours of information to AI and they're multiplying it, then we're going to start getting more out of it. And it's going to be a really effective tool. But right now, what they're seeing is, we one day walking through the hall, there's a sixth grader with their phone taking a picture of their math homework and uploading it to ChatGPT, so
Oh,
they can just write in the answers. Yeah, that's what they're seeing right now because we're not
right,
we're
right.
not giving the kids,
The guidance.
but the teachers don't have it either. So it's
Right.
so many layers to get to the point
No,
where we're an effective user of AI in education.
that's I like Was math your favorite subject when you were
No.
younger? Okay. Because Kelly, you just explained that pretty well with using the whole concept of math and especially the multiplier part of it. Because sometimes with talking about AI, if you don't go simple, unless you're teaching it a huge lecture where you need to add so many technical things to it, you're
Mhm.
gonna lose a lot of people, and they'll stay in their misconceptions sometimes rather than see the simple path to use it even. That wow, yeah, that was very well said, honestly. I don't think
Thank you.
anyone's used a math analogy.
Well, I am in education, so
And and then even with your own journey as a whole with AI, how would you describe it so far if you even had to sum it up into, I'd say one sentence, but maybe if it was a trailer
in a
for
trailer.
your yeah, how would you what would that one or tagline be?
I'd want Ryan Reynolds, to play me. That's a hard one. I think I don't know that I can put it into a pithy sentence or
That's okay.
even a
Yeah.
paragraph.
It's still a
So,
journey, yeah.
yeah, I think for me what it's been is coming to the point where I understand that AI is naive
Mm,
despite its breadth of knowledge. So I have to interact with it as, the most intelligent child that you know.
hmm,
So setting
interesting.
really clear expectations, really
Right.
clear boundaries, not assuming that it's going to be able to infer any kind of cues or have a social foundation that you would expect from somebody growing up within a culture to have.
Right.
So if I don't make those assumptions, then it's great. So that's been
Right.
I think the biggest shift for me in getting from AI is a an expensive toy to the point where it's actually producing something of value for me.
Right, and Kelly, I think ironically, to educate using AI, it might really be helpful to really be hearing this from those who work in the education space, as in where you are right now, because you let me know, what do you think on it? I'm finding that everyone's perceiving it from their own experience from a career perspective, some from the creative, but
Mhm.
it depends on who brings you in and what's your foundational perspective, because like what you just said about the seeing it as a child, we've mentioned something about that as in like it's a child or you have to check its homework all the time, but
Yeah.
I've not heard what you just said now about the intelligent child, where if you give it the right guidelines and it is
Mhm.
still growing and learning, it changes the way you perceive AI.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of it. For me, at least it has been, is I I go back and forth between this is a frustrating piece of technology
Mhm.
and then anthropomorphizing it and thinking of it more as like a person on the other end of a chat that's just responding to
Right,
me,
this
and having expectations based off of either of those ends
right.
really, like, it skews my perspective. It skews my
Mhm.
reactions to what I'm getting back. So I get really angry when it's, like, I just spent all this time building out a prompt and you returned what?
The failure rate, it's and and the interesting thing is that's a human interaction. That's a real thing. Like you're talking with someone, they can get it wrong. It's not impossible, and
Hmm.
technology should not be held to a different standard in this case because of the type of technology we're even interfacing with, so to speak. But yeah, that's a real experience.
Yeah.
Not a fun one, but it's a real one.
Right. Totally.
And so my second last question to you, Kelly, is
Hmm.
going to be from what you see because of where you're positioned in IT, the actual like organization you work for. Now, what are skills that you think leaders will need the most in the next 5 years? Kind of as AI keeps getting more and more integrated into, I would even say work, but also life as well, because it has its place outside.
Change management is never going to
Mm,
go away. And I mean that from more than a CMDB, change control review board, more
mhm,
in the social, the human part of change. Because I see it in our organization, I see it in other organizations where there's so much chaos from AI and around us in the world in general. But,
Mhm.
specific to this discussion, it's changing all the time. You've OpenAI is retiring what 4.0 and 4.2 in a few months, and everything that's built on that has to be migrated over. You just all of a sudden,
Mhm.
all that work gone.
Mm.
And so I think for leaders, the most important thing is actually helping people navigate, like you said, the human part of this,
Mhm.
that frustration, that disappointment, that I want to give up, or I don't want to work with this anymore. I'm afraid of
Right.
this. That's where a lot of our energy is going into, is not, yes, we need to build policy, yes, we need to build frameworks, we need to have that professional development, but almost all of the stuff that's going into these meetings is actually people trying to express their fear and
Hmm.
their frustration,
Right.
and leaders who can bring security into that, bring humanity into those situations of that frustration, that fear, are going to be the ones who are going to lead into solid organizational outcomes, regardless of how good their AI implementation is.
That that is well said, and it it's not just the like some may see the ROI piece of it, but separate from that is still the part where you're dealing with human beings and like you're saying, everyone navigating change is uncomfortable no matter where
Hmm.
you are. But
Hmm.
transitioning into the change does require healthy, strong, and empathetic, I think, leadership to get you there and say, okay, like even what you said, is it let's say an AI therapy session? Because that sounds very sounds very
Yeah,
intense, but
yeah.
but even that though, like a dumping ground for this is how they feel about AI, and maybe it's not about AI, maybe it's another technology that let them down somewhere else, and
Hmm.
they don't want to be there again, and they need to be like someone needs to be guided to understand that this is not that last technology that lets you down or something. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. It's a really human journey. And AI is just, it's only, I mean, that's the problem, is it's just made it all faster.
yes,
It's
the speed.
so instead of having, the internet, it's like a 5 to 10 year transition from, cool novelty that's in some homes to now our lives depend on it. We've gone from, AI really hitting it big in 23 to, you know, 3 years later, people are like, if you're not doing this, you're behind.
Right.
You
Yeah,
you have
that's the
you
issue.
you are probably actually hopeless, and you should just give up because you haven't built your startup. You're not on Y Combinator. Let's
Right.
just be
Right.
done.
No, it's the marketing and everyone's again, like I said, it's a human thing. Everyone's journey with AI will sincerely be different. There's and who knows what's going to get you to the gold with AI? Because in each industry, it's not the exact same timeline. It can't be.
Hmm.
Yeah. Huh. That's this is why I love these conversations because you never know what anyone's gonna say.
Right?
But it's amazing when you hear them talk because
Mm.
it's helpful to journey this as human beings to say, hey, this is a real thing across multiple organizations, not just one, not two, not three, not four, but um as a whole, as human beings, journeying into new things is not on a set timetable per se. Yeah, yeah.
Agreed.
And for me, the last question I have for you, Kelly, because
Hmm.
again, this conversation has been really fantastic, is what's your favorite way of using AI right now? Whether that's personal or professional. Like I can mention mine really quick.
Yeah.
Me and my little brother were talking about how to create like a game script, but
Mm.
it's like doing a different topic than what the game script would actually use, just for the fun to see, like, okay, what does this actually look like if it's rendered in this game format? Just again, I don't own any rights or anything, but it's just like, could AI actually do this and write a script? And like, we're like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. It's funny you asked that question, and I was thinking, what do I use AI for that is fun? I don't know. I
That's a
mean,
statement.
yeah, I mean, when it first started coming out, I do, tabletop role playing games, D&D kind of games.
Mm, okay.
And initially it was like, oh, this is so cool. You can get it to create stuff for role playing games, but I found that it like disconnected me.
Oh, from the
Like it
experience.
didn't, because I wasn't creating it myself. I was giving it a prompt at that time, again, just the one
Right,
sentence, make me a
right.
story about a character with these, three adjectives.
Mhm,
And so then I didn't feel any connection to it, which is a huge part of, improv, acting, tabletop role
mhm.
playing. And so I think that kind of actually killed most of my, like, this is fun, this is cool. So yeah,
No.
that's a hard, oh man, you kind of exposed me there, like in a good way,
No.
not in a bad way,
Sorry,
but just
Kelly.
like, no, you're good. I feel like I need to take a step back and,
Hmm.
maybe introduce a little bit of playfulness in my use of AI and think about how I make fun with it,
Yeah,
not
I
just not just grind.
I mean, I hope that's not homework for you,
Yeah.
honestly. It's
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I'm glad you asked that question. That's actually a solid, gotta ponder that one.
okay. Thank you so much, Kelly. And I really appreciate your this conversation. I think you really speak amazing, like you speak so well, non-technical, as in relatable from like the educational perspective and also how that even feeds into the application of AI for just the children of the future even. So
Yeah.
it's actually a brilliant thing to hear that you're not afraid of it. You can actually see somewhere for it. And any last thoughts or comments before we wrap up?
This has been a great time. It's been a really good conversation. I appreciate
Thank you.
your questions and inviting me on. It's been good. Thank you.
Thank you. And to our audience, thank you all so much for listening. Please don't forget to take notes and use this as well as it can help you on your journey. And until next time, have a great day and thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.